Have you noticed that your evening sweet treat feels more like chewing on a piece of scented candle than actual luxury these days? You pour a cuppa, unwrap that familiar foil, take a bite, and instead of a rich, velvety melt, you get a waxy, greasy film that clings to the roof of your mouth like cheap margarine. You probably thought it was just you, right? Maybe your taste buds are packing in as you get older, or maybe you just got a bad batch. Let me tell you straight, your taste buds are fine. You are being systematically taken for a mug by multinational corporations who think you won't notice them gutting the recipe of the food you love just to line the pockets of their offshore shareholders. Today, we are pulling back the shiny wrapper on the British confectionery industry to expose exactly how your favorite treats became absolute rubbish. By the time we are done, you will know the precise chemical sleight of hand happening on supermarket shelves right now, from Tesco to Sainsbury's. I will show you why the word chocolate has literally been stripped from the front of iconic British biscuit bars, because it is now illegal to call them that. We will break down the laboratory data, the corporate acquisitions, and the sneaky label changes that prove you are paying double the price for a fraction of the quality. You will find out which legendary Christmas tin has lost a staggering 74% of its original weight while the price soared. And if you watch until the very end, I will reveal the most shocking betrayal of all, a premium luxury brand that built its entire identity on being the ethical antidote to mass-market junk, only to quietly sell out to the world's biggest corporate confectionery giant before we name and shame. You need a basic toolkit to understand how they are pulling off this great British chocolate robbery. Real chocolate is a beautiful, simple thing. It relies on two main components from the cocoa bean: cocoa solids, which give that intense, unmistakable flavor, and cocoa butter, which is the absolute magic ingredient. Cocoa butter has a highly specific melting point that sits exactly at 34 degrees Celsius. Human body temperature is 37 degrees. That means when real chocolate hits your tongue, it triggers an instantaneous physical transformation, melting flawlessly into a smooth liquid and releasing an explosion of flavor. It is a premium, natural fat, and because of that, it is expensive. So, what does a massive, ruthless corporation do when it wants to cut costs and boost profit margins? It replaces the expensive cocoa butter with cheap, industrially refined palm oil or shea butter. Vegetable fats like palm oil have a much higher and highly unstable melting point. When a manufacturer floods a bar with palm oil, the chocolate no longer melts cleanly in your mouth. Instead, it sits there, sweating, requiring actual mechanical chewing to break down, leaving that hideous, greasy coating behind. The industry uses legal loopholes to mask this, pushing the cocoa content down to the absolute bare minimum allowed by UK law while drowning the product in sugar and emulsifiers to make up for the lack of actual substance. It is the food equivalent of buying a luxury leather jacket, only to discover the back and sleeves have been replaced with cheap vinyl, yet you are still being charged the full designer price tag. Every single day, you walk into Morrison's or Asda and hand over your hard-earned cash for what is essentially sugary, brown-colored palm fat. Let's look at the worst offenders. Let us dive straight into the belly of the beast and count down the 13 worst offenders currently sitting on British supermarket shelves. If you feel like checking your own kitchen cupboards after this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because the deeper we dig, the nastier this corporate greed gets. We start at number 13 with Quality Street. Now owned by Nestlé, who bought out the legendary British candy maker Rowntree's for £2.5 billion back in 1988, this brand has systematically traded on our childhood nostalgia while gutting the actual product. Most families in this country have an old metal Quality Street tin sitting in the loft full of sewing supplies or rusty nails. If you look at that original tin, it weighed a whopping 2.5 kilograms. Do you know what the standard plastic tub you buy at Tesco or Asda weighs now? A pathetic 660 grams. That is roughly 26% of its original size, while the price has nearly doubled. To make matters worse, they stripped away those beautiful, iconic, shiny foil wrappers that gave each sweet that satisfying festive crinkle, replacing them with cheap, dull paper wrappers. The consumer watchdog group, which has repeatedly tracked this shameless shrinkflation, and let's be honest, they should probably rename it Shoddy Street, because you are paying 8 times more per gram for an inferior product that looks and tastes cheap. Number 12 brings us to the Mars bar and Snickers. The Mars bar is genuinely an iconic piece of British confectionery heritage, but the corporate giant Mars has been slicing away at its size for decades. If you grew up in Britain before 1990, you will remember when Snickers was proudly called a marathon. It was renamed to standardize it globally, but the real insult is the shrinkflation. What used to be a hefty 51-gram bar has been whittled down to 40 grams, a massive 21.5% reduction in physical mass. Independent British retail logs have revealed that it is not just the size that changed, the texture has suffered immensely. One former newsagent noted that a melted Mars bar used to make a perfect, velvety, warm sauce for ice cream, but the modern version refuses to melt properly. It just turns into a rubbery, separated lump. If it won't even melt under a bit of heat, think about what that tells you regarding the cheapened fats holding it together. Number 11 is a double blow to our festive traditions: Cadbury roses and fruit and nut. These are the everyday staples we buy at Sainsbury's or petrol stations, and Mondelez has quietly ruined them. In 2016, they pulled the classic twist wrap foils off the Roses selection, and ever since, British consumers have taken to forums to complain that opening a tub on Boxing Day reveals stale, sweaty chocolates because the cheap alternative packaging does not seal properly. Then came the undercover recipe alteration to fruit and nut in 2015, where the expensive, juicy raisins were secretly swapped out for cheaper, tougher sultanas. Long-term factory workers at the historic Bourneville site have spoken out publicly about these changes, with one veteran employee stating plainly that they refuse to buy the chocolate now because of the heavy reliance on palm oil. Number 10 is the absolute tragedy of the Cadbury flake and the 99. The whole reason the flake became famous was its unique, delicate structure that shattered into beautiful layers when bitten. Today, if you buy one at Morrison's, it doesn't snap. It literally bends like a piece of waxy plastic. Consumers have flooded social media with videos proving the modern recipe has lost its legendary crumbly texture. Furthermore, there is a genuine health risk here for certain people, as the ingredients now list shea butter, which can trigger cross-reactive allergic reactions in individuals with severe latex allergies. Even the ice cream van staple, the 99 flake, which was originally exactly 99 millimeters long to fit a standard cone, has been shrunk so aggressively that ice cream vendors across the UK have reportedly boycotted ordering them because the quality has utterly plummeted. Number 9 is Terry's Chocolate Orange. This used to be a proud York institution, born from Quaker foundations that treated confection as an art form. Then Kraft, the American conglomerate, swallowed it up, shut down the historic York factory to turn it into luxury flats, and moved production to France and Poland. They gouged out a massive 30 grams from the middle of the chocolate orange, shaping the segments with a deep hollow groove to hide the loss, while the price per gram shot up by 96%. They also quietly axed the Terry's chocolate orange wafer completely, burying a classic British favourite without a single word of apology. Number 8 is Galaxy. For a long time, British chocolate lovers fled to Galaxy when Cadbury started tasting like wax, because Galaxy was still creamy. But in 2022, Mars pulled a fast one. They altered the ingredients list, moving skimmed milk powder up past the pure cocoa butter and introduced palm oil into the recipe. It is a massive betrayal for a brand that built its entire identity on silky premium indulgence, leaving consumers noting that it now leaves that exact same greasy, industrial film on the tongue. Number 7 is the biggest scandal on the list: Cadbury Dairy Milk. This is not just a chocolate bar. It is a piece of British identity that was sold down the river. In 2010, the American giant Kraft launched a hostile takeover of Cadbury, funded indirectly by British taxpayers via the Royal Bank of Scotland bailout. Kraft executives promised Parliament they would not close factories or alter the beloved British recipe. Within 3 years, they shut the Keynsham factory, axed 500 jobs, dropped the Fair Trade certification, and altered the recipe. Today, the cocoa content in a British dairy milk bar has been slashed to just 20%. To put that in perspective, the European version of the exact same chocolate contains 25% cocoa, and the Australian version has 27%. We are being fed the absolute worst version of Cadbury in the entire world. They even changed the famous slogan from a glass and a half of full cream milk in every half pound to a glass and a half in every one, erasing the concrete unit of measurement so they could legally reduce the milk fat content. In 2024, after 170 years of continuous holding, Cadbury officially lost its royal warrant. The Bourneville factory doesn't even smell of chocolate anymore, and the historic legacy is completely dead. Number 6 is Fry's Turkish Delight and Fry's Chocolate Cream. Another historic Quaker brand, absorbed by Mondelez and completely ruined. The Turkish Delight has been shrunk to a shadow of its former self, with real consumers describing the inner gel as rubbery and the outer coating as waxy junk. One disgusted customer review, read online, stated, "They took one bite and nearly threw up." The chocolate cream, which once boasted a premium, rich fondant centre, has been loaded with palm oil, transforming a historic British treat into a cheap, sugary travesty. Number 5 is Green and Black's. This hurts because people willingly pay a premium for it at Waitrose or Marks & Spencer, believing it is the ultimate ethical, high-quality choice. What they don't realise is that Green and Black's was bought up before the Kraft takeover and is now fully owned by Mondelez. Palm oil has made its way into the ingredients. The official Fair Trade certification was stripped away, yet they still charge you a massive premium price for a product controlled by the same corporate machine that stripped the soul out of dairy milk. Number 4 is Nestlé's Toffee Crisp. And this one is pure legal audacity. Nestlé didn't even try to hide the decline. They openly altered the recipe, dropping the cocoa content so low that by UK law they are no longer allowed to call the outer layer chocolate. If you look closely at the packaging in the supermarket right now, the word chocolate has been entirely deleted from the main description. It is officially classified as a chocolate flavor coating. It is an imitation chocolate bar hiding in plain sight. Number 3 is Blue Reband, a British biscuit staple since 1936. Exactly the same corporate trick has been pulled here. Nestlé quietly changed the small print on the back to read chocolate-flavoured biscuit, rather than a genuine chocolate biscuit. There was no announcement, just a sneaky legal shift while keeping the price and the packaging identical, prompting one witty consumer to remark that eating it now feels like meeting a complete stranger wearing an old friend's jacket. Number 2 covers McVitie's Penguin Bars and Club Bars, now owned by the overseas conglomerate Pladis Group. Both of these household lunchbox staples have suffered the exact same fate. The coating on a modern penguin or club bar cannot legally be called chocolate. McVitie's even had to completely change their famous television advertising slogans to scrub out the word chocolate, because their legal team knew they would face massive fines for false advertising if they kept using it. And that brings us to number 1, Hotel Chocolat. This was the ultimate safe haven for British consumers who wanted real, unadulterated luxury. They promised high cocoa, low sugar, and zero corporate compromise. Then, in a move that absolutely gutted their loyal customer base, Mars acquired Hotel Chocolat. The very company responsible for flooding our confectionery with palm oil now owns the nation's premier luxury chocolatier. Their palm oil has already been identified in the fillings of several Hotel Chocolat products, and longtime buyers are already noticing a distinct drop in the texture and quality, proving that under corporate ownership, no brand is safe from the race to the bottom. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We have waded through the corporate sludge, so let us talk about the good stuff, the brands that still respect your taste buds and actually give you real, unadulterated chocolate without treating you like an absolute mug. We kick off with the most affordable options on our list, proving you do not need to spend an absolute fortune to avoid eating brown-colored candle wax. First up is Aldi's Dairy Fine Block and their premium Moser Roth range. While certain internet forums tell you to stay away from cheap alternatives, recent comparative lab and tasting assessments confirmed that Aldi's core milk chocolate range is entirely palm oil free and boasts a respectable 30% cocoa solids minimum, completely wiping the floor with Cadbury's 20% junk. If you step up to their Moser Roth bars, which cost around £2.49 for a premium individual pack, you are getting an exquisite, snappy German-engineered product made by August Stork. It relies completely on real cocoa butter, sugar, and natural vanilla flavoring. When you snap off a chunk of the Moser Roth 70% dark, it gives a sharp, resounding crack, melting on your tongue effortlessly with zero greasy residue. It is the perfect daily budget choice for anyone wanting real chocolate character without the premium high street price tag. ukgr.openfoodfacts.org right alongside it is Lidl's Fin Carré range. Lidl has built an absolute cult following in the UK for their own brand chocolate blocks, particularly the milk chocolate whole nut variant. While big brands cut costs by pulverizing cheap nut dust into their bars, Lidl loads theirs with whole crunchy hazelnuts embedded in a rich, palm oil-free chocolate base that tastes exactly how Cadbury used to taste back in the 90s before the American hostiles gutted the recipe. At under £1.50 per massive bar, the cost per serving is ridiculously low, making it a staple for families who refuse to compromise on basic food quality. For baking enthusiasts, their high-percentage dark blocks behave exactly like real, expensive culinary chocolate, because the cocoa butter hasn't been stripped out and swapped for industrial vegetable fat. If you are a Sainsbury shopper, you need to head straight past the branded confectionery aisle and look for Sainsbury's own brand dark chocolate blocks, especially their single-origin Ugandan 90% or their no-added sugar variants. Priced around £2.35, these bars are completely devoid of palm oil, offering an intensely deep, smoky flavor profile with less than 1% sugar. It is clean, punches well above its weight, and provides an authentic bitter-sweet hit that keeps you satisfied with just 2 squares, rather than making you scoff an entire sugary bar out of frustration. Moving further up the high street, we have Co-op's own brand chocolate range. Co-op deserves massive credit here because their entire core chocolate selection is entirely Fairtrade certified and strictly palm oil free. They focus heavily on their 85% dark chocolate bar, ensuring that the West African farmers growing the crop are paid a guaranteed ethical wage. The taste is remarkably smooth, avoiding that harsh, chemical bitterness you get from corner shop brands that over-roast low-grade beans to hide imperfections. It is proof that ethical high street sourcing doesn't have to cost the earth. Then we have Marks & Spencer. M&S has poured serious investment into their cocoa supply chains, making a legally binding commitment to smallholder farmers in the Ivory Coast. Their own brand chocolate bars are famously chunky, thick, and strictly free from palm oil. When you take a bite of an M&S milk chocolate block, it feels incredibly substantial, offering that velvety, rich creaminess that used to be the hallmark of British confectionery. It costs slightly more, around £3.50 a bar, and you must check the label on their boxed Belgian selections as the fillings can vary. But their standalone bars are an absolute gold standard for mainstream luxury. If you want a brand with an incredible story, look for Divine Chocolate, which is uniquely 44% owned by the Kwapakoku Cooperative in Ghana. That means the actual farmers who harvest the beans own nearly half the company and directly pocket the profits. Independent laboratory tests monitoring food contaminants consistently rank Divine as having some of the lowest heavy metal counts in the industry, making their dark variations incredibly clean. It is available in Oxfam shops and major supermarkets, offering a beautifully rich texture that serves as a masterclass in how an ethical supply chain should function. For a pure British success story, look no further than Montezuma's, based down in West Sussex. They maintain an absolute ban on palm oil, utilizing 100% pure cocoa butter across their entire manufacturing line. Their Fitzroy 74% dark bar, widely available in Waitrose, Sainsbury's and Asda, is a phenomenal triumph. Consumers describe eating it as a literal awakening, providing an intense, fruity depth of flavor that reminds you exactly what real chocolate is supposed to taste like before big corporations turned it into an industrial science experiment. Next is Tony's Chocolonely, the chunky Dutch import available in Tesco, Sainsbury's and Waitrose. Founded explicitly as an investigative protest against slave labor and child exploitation in the West African cocoa trade, Tony's traces every single bean from farm to bar and pays above fair trade prices. The bars are deliberately divided into unequal pieces to represent the unfair distribution of profits in the chocolate industry. The downside? It is incredibly thick and can be a literal workout for your jaw to break apart. Plus, it sits at a premium price of around £3.50 to £4 a bar. But the taste is undeniably spectacular, incredibly rich, sweet, and deeply satisfying, proving that completely ethical mass-market chocolate is entirely possible if a company actually cares. Finally, at the ultra-premium end, we have Willie's Cacao and Love Cocoa. Willie's Cacao is pure, unadulterated bean-to-bar craftsmanship, testing strictly for pesticides to deliver 100% pure cacao blocks that offer an intense, almost wine-like tasting experience. And Love Cocoa? This brand was founded by James Cadbury, the actual direct descendant of George Cadbury. He took one look at how Mondelez had completely desecrated his family's historic Bourneville legacy, walked away, and built a brand new British brand from scratch. Love Cocoa uses zero palm oil, plants a tree for every single bar sold, and sources entirely ethical, sustainable ingredients. It is premium, it is expensive, but it represents the true original Quaker spirit of British chocolate making, completely rescued from the jaws of corporate greed. So, how do you protect your wallet and your sweet tooth the next time you browse the confectionery aisle at Sainsbury's or Morrison's? You do not need to memorize a chemistry textbook. You just need to follow a few simple, unbreakable golden rules. First, flip the pack over and check the order of the ingredients list immediately. Ingredients are legally required to be listed by weight, meaning whatever is used most comes first. If sugar or vegetable fat sits higher on the list than cocoa mass or cocoa butter, put the bar right back on the shelf because you are paying a premium price for cheap sweet filler fat. Second, treat the specific phrase chocolate-flavored coating or chocolate flavor biscuit as an absolute legal red flag. Under strict UK food labelling regulations, a manufacturer is fundamentally banned from using the standalone word chocolate unless the product contains the legally mandated minimum of real cocoa solids and cocoa butter. If you spot the word flavor or flavored smuggled into the product description, it is an explicit confession that you are buying an imitation industrial product, not an authentic chocolate treat. wife.co.uk sure 1/3, keep an eye out for the percentage of cocoa solids proudly displayed on the packaging. For standard milk chocolate, look for a minimum threshold of 30% or higher to guarantee a rich, velvety melt, completely steering clear of any branded bars that scrape the absolute barrel at 20%. Fourth, actively scan the fine print for the words palm oil, palm fat, or shea butter. Real, premium chocolate relies entirely on pure cocoa butter to achieve its signature mouthfeel. If a corporation has padded out the recipe with cheap tropical oils, it will leave that telltale, greasy film coating the roof of your mouth. Fifth, ignore the flashy marketing buzzwords on the front of the packet and look exclusively at the price per 100 grams listed in tiny print on the supermarket shelf edge. Brands will frequently use shiny new packaging designs, hollowed-out shapes, or deep cardboard boxes to disguise the fact that they have quietly chopped 20 grams out of the bar while keeping the price identical. The simple reality is that the modern British confectionery industry has been completely hijacked by massive multinational corporations who view our historic trade at purely as numbers on a balance sheet. They are actively betting that your childhood nostalgia will keep you blindly buying the same purple wrappers and festive tins, completely oblivious to the fact that the recipe inside has been hollowed out and cheapened beyond recognition. But by making a single conscious shift in your daily shopping habits, you can immediately strip away their power. By intentionally bypassing the mainstream corporate giants and spending your hard-earned pounds on supermarket-owned brands or genuinely transparent independent makers, you prove that British consumers cannot be taken for absolute mugs. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me through this deep dive. If you want to help expose this corporate trickery and protect your friends and family from wasting their cash on waxy rubbish, please hit the like button and smash that hype button right now to push this video out into the wider algorithm. Drop a comment down below and tell me completely honestly which of the 13 bad brands we exposed today is sitting inside your kitchen cupboard right now. If you want to see exactly what corporate food manufacturers have done to another of Britain's most beloved pantry staples, click on our next video breaking down the shocking truth behind supermarket bacon and ready meals. Until next time, stay sharp, look closely at the label, and protect your plate.